welcome to the City of Good Sports. I'm your host, Richard Miller. I want to start off this episode by congratulating the Michigan Wolverines, who are your Division I NCAA basketball champions. Kind of local, the Gannon University Knights are your D2 champions, Erie, Pennsylvania. Was hoping it would be Damon. On Michigan, though, we have a 716 native, Roddy Gale, amazing glue guy by way of Niagara Falls, Newport area. Put back dunk in the championship game. Just an incredible effort. And this Michigan team was just a great team overall. I ended last episode by saying bet on the Big Ten, and I was proven right. We had two Big Ten teams in the Final Four in Michigan and Illinois. We had a phenomenal Elite Eight run by Ben McCollum's Iowa squad and Bennett Sturts. Before that, we had a good run by Fred Hoiberg's Nebraska squad. Fred Hoiberg was named National Coach of the Year. Pretty big mishap at the end of that Iowa game, having only 4 guys on the court. Someone subbed in. That was an insane blunder. Duke UConn, an insane blunder by Caden Boozer, leading to a generational shot by Braylon Mullins. The fact that Dan Hurley was able to will that UConn team to a national championship is a testament to how good of a coach he is. But more than all, terrific coaching job by Dusty May and this Michigan team. This Michigan team has looked like the best team in the country for a large majority of the year. It certainly started out that way. If you remember early in the season, they had a statement blowout win over Gonzaga. They were giving belts to everybody, and it looked that way in the tournament. They did not play a single close game until the national championship. This was a team that was built by the portal. Certainly, Yaxel Landeborg coming from UAB, Elliot Cadeau, obviously coming from UNC, Roddy Gale by way of Ohio State, Ade Mara by way of UCLA, and they are a big team. They obviously have that 7'3" big man, elite passer, just super imposing. Ade Mara, super imposing. The fact that Yaxel was their 3, they had Yaxel at their 3, Morez Johnson at the 4, and Trey McKinney at shooting guard a lot of the time. That's a big team, and most college teams just did not have an answer for that. Just an incredibly well-structured roster, an incredible starting 5, an incredible overall team. Michigan was just that good. They were the best team in college basketball. I've kind of felt that way all year. Going into the tournament, I bought into certain narratives because I'll be honest, I picked Arkansas. I really know that Arkansas probably wasn't as good of a team as Michigan or even Arizona, who they got blew out by, but I really bought into the Darius Acuff hype and that guards win in March. I know it's a bad decision on my part because instinctively I kind of knew it would be Michigan. I bought into Houston too, bought into Kelvin Sampson, the team he built overall. Bad loss to Illinois. Congratulations to Illinois. Hell of a run for them. In the Eastern Bloc they've built. This was a good tournament, a little chalk, and that's something you kind of come to expect with the NIL era and the transfer portal era. There are a ton of people that have hit the transfer portal. Which brings me to my next thing that I want to discuss is that Damon players, Zach Filipowski and Ben Bill, the D2 transfer portal, as well as Ryan Heath. And they will likely be transitioning to the D1 level to play for Mike McDonald, the guy I interviewed, who got a head coaching job for the St. Bonaventure Bonnies. Congratulations to Coach Mike McDonald. Now, the A-10 is not a small conference. They are a mid-major, and they're a high-level mid-major. They produce 2 tournament teams in St. Louis and VCU. They're very competitive year in, year out. Teams like St. Louis, VCU, Dayton, St. Joseph's, Davidson, Rhode Island. There are a lot of good teams in that conference, both historically and right now. It'll be interesting to see how he builds that roster, how Woj helps build that roster, what's recruiting going to look like, what transfers are they going to bring in. But I do know that likely the three Damon guys, Heath, Filipowski, and Ben Bill, will follow Mike McDonald to St. Bonaventure. It will suck not being able to go to Damon games around the corner, but St. Bonaventure usually plays a couple games in Buffalo. Olean's not that far. I'll definitely be pulling for the Bonnies this year. And I'm excited to see some St. Bonaventure basketball games. But we really are in the NIL era, in the transfer portal era. The transfer portal just opened, and already over 1,000 players have entered the transfer portal. If you look at the national champions the last 2 years, their best players are from UAB and Iona, respectively. Michigan, this year's champion, was almost entirely portal. So the transfer portal is just a part of college basketball now. It's something we have to accept. College basketball is a money game. It always has been a money game, even before NIL was a thing, because of stuff like resources, stuff like brand recognition, and the money that schools are able to funnel in and invest into their program. And let's be honest, even before NIL was a thing, players were finding ways to get paid. And even the coaches that got in trouble for that, like Pitino, are back to coaching high-level D1 programs now. So, do I think the Cinderella era is officially over? No, because a lot of these star players of high-level programs originally came from low-level D1 schools. They have to start somewhere. Do I think players are going to develop all 4 years at these small schools anymore? Probably not. But the same way people transfer up, players could transfer down. You look at someone like Cameron Hunter, started at Central Arkansas, went to Wisconsin, didn't really produce much at all, went back to Central Arkansas, and was one of the best scorers in the country. I believe he entered the portal again, but he looked phenomenal in that ASUN championship game. Some other like low-level colleges have some really great players in this portal. Alex Wilkins from Furman is definitely going to be a major contributor on a high-level P5 school. I could see that with Money Williams out of Montana. There are a lot of guys in these portal that play for smaller schools that are among the better players in the country and are just waiting on their opportunity. Even guys at D2 like Pace Prosser out of Gannon, he could be a major contributor on a D1 school. Going back to St. Bonaventure, I think Filipowski and Bill are going to be major contributors on an A10 school in St. Bonaventure. So, it doesn't really matter. I mean, Jax Landeborg started at a JUCO. So, the NIL could get a little ridiculous, especially with these players that came from the G League. Like Kyrie Walker is still looking for college offers. That's where it starts to get ridiculous. But we just have to accept NIL and money is the name of the game when it comes to college sports nowadays. And it will be, and it will forever be. The thing that's gotten more ridiculous, in my opinion, is the conferences. Why is Cal in the ACC? Why does the Big Ten have 18 teams? Why does the Big 12 have 18 teams? Why is USC and UCLA in the Big Ten? First of all, we have to bring back the Pac-12. And not this new Pac-12. It's a little exciting, but no. Get down to the basics. UCLA, USC, Cal, Stanford, Oregon, Oregon State, Washington, Washington State. Listen, there's nothing wrong with adding Gonzaga to that conference for basketball. You go all the teams that are on the Pacific Coast. You can move Colorado and Utah to the Mountain West. Make the Mountain West a little competitive. Throw BYU in there too. Bring the Pac-12 back. You could add Gonzaga. And then I would go San Diego State. They made a championship. They gave us Kawhi Leonard. That's more than St. Mary's has. Let St. Mary's win that weak conference, okay? Have Gonzaga go against some real competition. Bring the Pac-12 back. I like the resurgence of the Big East, but let's bring some Big East teams back to the Big East. Listen, Syracuse and Louisville could leave the ACC and go back to the Big East. Pitt could go back to the Big East. Make that a little more competitive. And then some of the filler schools you could just use to make conferences like the American and the Mountain West and the A10, the Missouri Valley Conference, make those competitive again. Remember when Creighton and Wichita State and Northern Iowa were all in the the Missouri Valley Conference? How fun it was to have a competitive mid-major conference like that. Bring that feeling back, and bring back conferences. That's my opinion. And if it's called the Big Ten, at most 12. But then there's also a Big 12. So put 10 teams in the Big 10, 12 teams in the Big 12. You could rearrange it for football and basketball, okay? Penn State could be in the Big 10 for football and the American for basketball, for all I care. You know? Let's bring back conferences. There's some serious realignment that needs to happen. There's no reason for SMU to be in the ACC, and they're like, oh, the Big Ten looks strong this year. Oregon football is looking really good. That's really good for the Big Ten. They're not a Big Ten school. They're in Oregon. Conferences used to mean something, and now they don't. There's no reason why a California school should be going to North Carolina to play an in-conference game. I could propose the realignment right now. Let's get into the Buffalo Sabres. We just keep on winning. We're back at the top of the Atlantic with 104 points on the year. We only had 79 last year. It's unbelievable the momentum that is building in the city for this team. The drought is over. We've officially clinched the playoffs. We're only like 4 or 5 games away. Just had another win against the Lightning. We just had a win against the Rangers. Don't want to jinx it. Possible win against the Blue Jackets tonight. And a definite playoff appearance. That first playoff game in KeyBank Center is going to be electric. Some of the crowd pops I've heard this year from the Sabres crowd pops by the crowd. It's a little redundant. Off topic. What an amazing time to be a Buffalo sports fan. It's really distracting my mind away from the Bills. Because now I'm on the Sabres bandwagon. I'll admit it, I'm a little bit of a bandwagon. I don't care. We had 14 years. 2011. We haven't been in it since 2011. I think every Buffalo resident is allowed to hop on the Sabres bandwagon. This is an exciting team, an extremely exciting team. Now, it's hard to be anything but optimistic about the Sabres. So when people try to talk to you about the realistic chances at the playoffs and the Stanley Cup, I'm just happy to be here. I mean, there's no way to be anything but excited. And I may get frustrated at some of these playoff series coming up, but the fact of the matter stands. Ramses Dahlin, Owen Power, Tage Thompson, Matthias Samuelsson, Josh Stone, and Josh Norris are all locked up for long-term contracts and will likely be with the team, barring trades or some sorts of transaction, will be with the team through the rest of the 2020s. And the games against the Lightning and some of these games that they've played in as of recent lead me to believe that they could win in big-time playoff games when all the attention is on them, and don't let it be a home game in Buffalo. Carolina is a team that definitely concerns me. We haven't played them since January, so the sample size is not that great. Especially they haven't played the really hot version of the Buffalo Sabres. But this is certainly a team that is going to do damage in the playoffs. And if they go out, they will go out competitively. They've had some losing stretches here and there. But Buffalo Sabres are back. Buffalo hockey is back. And I believe is here to stay. Now, with playoff hockey being around the corner, that also means that playoff basketball is around the corner. and what has come to be glaringly obvious in recent weeks, which is something I always kind of felt throughout the season, is that I believe there are only 3 teams with a shot of winning it all, and they are all in the Western Conference. The overwhelming favorite is the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think the Oklahoma City Thunder will most likely repeat as NBA champions. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is entering himself into some very, very serious talks about where he stands as an all-time player. I saw a recent take that if he is able to run the table this year and has a couple more years of playing at the level that he's playing at right now, then he already becomes a top 3 point guard of all time with Magic Johnson and Steph Curry. Shai is an incredible player. The efficiency, the way he just understands the ins and outs of the games, his defensive ability, just his scoring ability is unlike anything you've ever seen. He's just able to get into his spots. He's able to create space. He's able to use leverage. The foul merchant thing has some elements of truth to it, but I just think he's a very high IQ player who is able to use that to his advantage. It's not shameless in the way of someone like Danny Avdija. But then being able to get Jared McCain for basically nothing. I guess they gave up a pick, which Sam Presti rarely gives up picks. But Daryl Morey is an idiot for giving them Jared McCain. For them to have a shooter like that who could work around screens, get open, get hot, to what is already the deepest roster in the NBA, far and away the deepest roster in the NBA. Chet Holmgren, as much as I like to hate on the guy, he's a proven winner. He's won at every level. And he certainly makes an impact. And they're the healthiest they've been all season. Shai, Chet, Jalen Williams, Alex Caruso, Lou Dort, Jared McCain, Cason Wallace, they're all healthy right now. And playoffs are right around the corner, and that really scares me because throughout the most of the year, the Thunder have at least had 1 or 2 guys who have been injured. They are full strength, with the exception of Thomas Sorber, who's been out all year. They are full strength. And a full strength Thunder team is the heavy favorite. Do I think the Spurs and Nuggets have a shot at beating them? Yes, that's why I said there are 3 true contenders. The team that's not healthy is the Lakers, and I already thought the Lakers didn't really have a shot to begin with, and that's a lot due to roster construction. I don't believe in DeAndre Ayton. I don't believe in the role players, but I especially don't believe in them now that Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic are going to be out for the start of the playoffs. And I love LeBron, but he's 41 years old. He can't do everything. The Lakers have no shot. I'm officially crossing them out. And I've honestly seen enough from the Rockets and the Timberwolves where I just don't buy it. Do I think playoff Ant could have some excellent highs with the Timberwolves? Sure. Do I like the Ayo Dosunmu addition? I do. Being able to flip Rob Dillingham for him was probably the second best move of the deadline to the Jared McCain move. But that roster just isn't enough. I don't see it. Now with the Spurs, that thing that people always say that rings true is that this is the worst they'll ever be. This is a potential dynasty in the making. They are led by one of the best players in the world, the Alien. He's already, in my opinion, the 3rd best player in the world in just his 3rd season. He's only going to get better. Stephon Castle's only going to get better. And what people don't seem to talk about enough with this Rookie of the Year race between Concaneppel and Cooper Flag. Concaneppel obviously had a very historic stretch. He was leading the NBA in three-pointers. LaMelo's right there too. I'm going to get into that Hornets team. And then he's kind of fallen off a little bit, right? Cooper Flag is playing at an extremely good level. Back-to-back 45-point games. He's going to be one of the best in the world in a couple of years. Do I think he'll pass Luka? I'm not sure yet. Probably not. But with this Rookie of the Year race that everyone's talking about, people seem to forget that Dylan Harper is going to be a really good player. He is so well adapted for the modern era of the NBA. Once he puts it all together, he's a surefire all-star, possible all-NBA level talent. When you look at guys like Shea or Cade, he's cut from that same cloth of tall guards that are simply just competitive, can get to their spots, high IQ, and just wiry scorers. Stephon Castle has all the makings of, he's like a glue guy on steroids. He does all the things that glue players do, but also can potentially be a star to superstar in the league. And Wemby has the potential to be the best defensive player in the history of the NBA. I'm not going to say he could be the best overall player in the history of the NBA, but he could be the best in the world pretty soon. This is a 7'3" guy that could pretty much do anything on the court. And I'm kind of selling it short with 7'3". He was really more like 7'4" to 7'5". Now, I've talked about who I believe is the second best player in the NBA in Shea and who's the third best player in the NBA in Wemby. But in my opinion, the best player in the NBA still plays in Denver. And what a surprise, the three teams that I think could win it all have the three best players in the NBA. And I'm saying this as a Giannis fan. The thing about Jokic is the game comes to him so easily. He's the best offensive player in the world, possibly all time. And as long as they don't completely gut their roster and mess up their timeline like how Milwaukee did, they will always be a contender as long as Jokic is at the helm. Not to mention, Jamal Murray is having the best regular season of his career and is historically a postseason riser. Aaron Gordon has completely shifted his game to the point where he's now a knockdown shooter. Peyton Watson is emerging as a player that I don't even know if they're going to be able to keep because he's such an asset in the modern NBA, being a 3-and-D player that also happens to have insane jump out of the gym athleticism, phenomenal shot blocker for being a small forward, and he's someone that every NBA team is going to want come free agency. He's dealing with a hamstring injury right now, but it's almost as if they're going to regret keeping Brown and locking him up to that long-term contract rather than P. Watt. Losing Michael Porter Jr. hurts. Obviously, Cam Johnson is a downgrade of Michael Porter, but that move was to build up the rest of their roster. Tim Hardaway Jr. could get hot from three. Jonas Valanciunas could give Jokic a rest for maybe 10 minutes or so. They still have a pretty dang good roster and the best player in the world. Denver is a contender. They're one of the three contenders. They have more experience, obviously, than San Antonio, being that they won it all. This is San Antonio's first real year being in the playoffs and being good. Now, moving on to the East, it's really just a question of who is going to lose to the Western Conference team. I am leaning Knicks. And I think it would be incredible for the NBA to have New York in the finals. I think it would be incredible for New York sports. MSG, the best arena, the best atmosphere in all of basketball to me. It would do wonders. They kept pretty much the same roster as last year. Last year they obviously made the conference finals. Do I think they could have waited it out for Giannis? Possibly. I still am skeptical of that Mikal Bridges trade that they gave up all those picks for. But that core has experience playing together. Still Brunson, Towns in his second year with the Knicks, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart. They just pretty much ran it back. And sometimes that's the best thing to do, is run it back. Pistons have emerged as the top seed in the East. Pistons and Knicks had a very competitive series last year. That should be exciting. Celtics are, of course, in the picture. Jason Tatum, possibly the best recovery I've ever seen off an Achilles injury. Jason Tatum's been balling. Jaylen Brown's had some minor injuries also with his Achilles, which anytime you hear the word Achilles, it's concerning. But they could very well come out of the East. Cavs, I was skeptical of Harden and Mitchell at first. There's still some shakiness with the Cavs, but I could see it. And then you have the young teams. And like I said, I would get to the Hornets later. The Hornets are fun. A lot of people thought they would be a potential dynasty. When you look at it, their starting five has some of the best point differentials in the entire NBA. And that's the core that they're going to keep. LaMelo, Brandon Miller, Con Knipple, Miles Bridges, Moussa Diabate. They are fun. They're high-paced. They shoot a lot of threes. But it's too early for them. It's too early for the Hawks. It's too early for the Raptors. Do I think they're going to turn into dynasties? I think the Hornets are the most likely of those three. I think Jalen Johnson has turned into a hell of a player. I think Alexander Walker has turned into a hell of a player. Had the Timberwolves kept him, you don't really know what the development would have been like, but they would have more of a shot at winning it all had the Timberwolves kept Nickeil Alexander-Walker. But there's really four teams that can make it out of the East. The Knicks, the Celtics, the Pistons, the Cavs, and I would say in that order. But they're going to lose to a Western Conference team. But the East has been shockingly competitive. The play-in, at the very least, from 7 to 10, the East kind of laps the West. It's a deeper conference for like the first time ever. I'm certainly taking the Hornets over the Warriors in a series, the way the rosters stand right now. And there are a lot of teams that have been shockingly good in the East. The Hawks, the Hornets, the play-in in the East might be very competitive this year. A lot of people were expecting it to be the usual teams, the DeMar DeRozan Invitational, the Red 40 as they would call it, the Red 40 wins. Hawks, Bulls, Heat. Heat are still there, but they're missing their buddies. The Hawks have gotten better, Bulls have gotten worse. And instead they'll be playing a hungry 76ers team, a Magic team that has kind of played below expectations, and a Hornets team which has exceeded expectations and is one of the most fun teams in all of the NBA. For once, I'm actually a little bit excited about the play-in. Am I going to miss DeMar DeRozan and Trae Young and Jimmy Butler being in there? Sure. But East play-in might be pretty competitive. The Eastern Conference playoffs in general might be pretty competitive. It's still not the better conference, but it's the deeper conference. I think there's more shot of an upset there. I think the Pistons could get upset as a 1 seed, and I like the Pistons. I love the turnaround that the Pistons have had. It's very Buffalo Sabres-esque. And Cade is a hell of a player. But I think they're susceptible to an 8-1 upset. that's the kind of excitement the East could bring you in the playoffs that the West really can't. Do I think the Thunder have any shot of losing to an 8 seed? No. Could the Blazers even get a game out of the Thunder in a series? I doubt it. Clippers maybe get one. Clippers really turned around too, because they look dead in the water. Still there. They're still fighting for the 8 seed because who else would it really be? They did get younger. They lost Zubac. They lost Harden. Gave up on Chris Paul. That story was pretty sad. But who else would it be? Everyone else is tanking. It's not going to be the Jazz. It's not going to be the Grizzlies. It's certainly not going to be the Kings. So they're kind of just sitting as a placeholder right there. What their future looks like, I don't know. What I do know, Ty Lue is a hell of a coach. But he has no shot at beating OKC or San Antonio or Denver in a series. But playoff time is here, baby, and for once, I might be more excited about the NHL playoffs. I'm excited about my Buffalo Sabres. So, go Sabres. Go Bills. Didn't even talk about them this episode. Congratulations to the Wolverines. My Bucks are not in the playoffs. I'm kind of neutral. Maybe I'll root for the Knicks. But have a good day, guys. From the City of Good Sports, I'm your host, Richard Miller. I'll see you soon.